Now, it might have started with the lonely call of a trumpet down by the river, or maybe one key struck on an old piano in a juke joint at the edge of town. One thing is certain, it all came together at the beginning of the century, and Memphis became the home of the blues. Hi, this is Dick Clark, and I'm standing in a light rain on the roof of the historic Peabody Hotel in downtown Memphis. Now up here, we're able to see one of the most famous rivers in the whole wide world, the Mississippi. It conjures up romance, all kinds of music. In the early 1900s, it was on that river that musicians traveled by barge, riverboat, steamship, any way they could to get to Memphis, the city where it was all happening. They gathered down there on Beale Street and became one of the most exciting musical movements in American history. About 1912, that's where W.C. Handy's Memphis Blues became the first blues song ever published. And from that point on, things kept cooking. Musical history kept being made. In the mid-50s, 5 young men arrived in Memphis, each searching for his own style of music. And by combining the heart of country with the soul of rhythm and blues, they found a new sound and changed popular music forever. Rockabilly was born. After creating remarkable careers for themselves, our legends returned home to make music together one more time. Along with Elvis Presley, these 4 gentlemen created musical history. Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, and Carl Perkins.
From Memphis, Tennessee, where rock and roll was born, it's Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, and Carl Perkins, with their very special guests, June Carter Cash, John Fogerty, The Judds, Rick Nelson, Ace Cannon, and Marty Stewart. Coming Home, a Rockin' reunion hosted by Dick Clark.
Now, it all started in a small storefront recording studio operated by Sun Records. That studio was about to come alive once again with a sound that touched all of us. Today, we call it rock and roll. Oh, yes, you know, as you watch these 4 great artists walk back into this tiny 18 by 29-foot room where it all happened, we can only try and imagine what thoughts flashed in each of their minds after being away for such a long time.
She's only 6 years old, information please. Try to connect me back with her in Memphis, Tennessee.
That jam was the beginning of a week filled with music and memories. Now, as we experience this celebration, you're going to hear these legends and their friends in very revealing interviews as they talk with our producer-director, Gene Wee. We'll also hear some very rare comments from 2 great musicians who are no longer with us, Rick Nelson and Roy Orbison. And we'll hear the exciting music these artists made together. Music created by a love and a bond that could only happen at an event like this.
Well, when I first got to Memphis, E-double-N, I was knocked out by these friendly people. They all said, howdy, howdy, come on in. We don't know the meaning of the word outsider. I said, because you all play this kind of music, well, that's something I would surely like to know. When I was a boy, I heard this wild kind of music. I think they called it good old rock and roll. Can you tell me what you know about rock and roll? He said, son, it's just a feeling way out in the soul. Just a simple story with this wild rock and roll. Hey, little boys in Louisiana, all that rock and roll.
But I'll tell you a secret, it drives the women crazy.
And that's all you need to know about rock and roll. Well, you could not imagine the shape my head was in. Took me a walk down by the Mississippi. Well, I heard this rockin' music coming out of the harbor inn. I couldn't resist, I had me a drink, then I had me a listen. I said to the boys in the band, when you get a break, that's something that I'd really like to know. When I was a boy, I heard this wild kind of music, and I think they call it rock and roll. Tell me what you know about rock and roll.
Rock and roll legends Carl Perkins and Roy Orbison perform When Coming Home, a Rockin' reunion continues.
Well, it's one for the money.
Now, for Carl Perkins, this particular recording studio has a very special meaning. Carl recorded Blue Suede Shoes right here. As a matter of fact, he wrote it one night on a paper sack. And he recorded it a day or so later and saw it go all the way to #2 in the nation. Now, with that song, Carl Perkins became one of the founding fathers of rock and roll.
You know, Carl, oftentimes one event, one thing can change a person's life forever. And with your writing of Blue Suede Shoes, a lot of lives were changed forever. They learned about rockabilly and rock and roll. How did that all come about?
I was playing a club in Jackson, Tennessee. For a sorority, they hired our little group to play, and this cat said that to a girl. He said, don't step on my suede. And she was so pretty that it bothered me that he thought that much of his shoes. It really did. It tore me up because I had not owned a pair of them at that time. I wanted them, but I was a little out of my class, you know, to be able to afford that. But I couldn't get it out of my mind. I went back to that project house that night, and I was just, I could see her, I could see him that proud of his shoes. Her feelings was hurt. My soul was tore up. I just couldn't go to sleep. I 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 get ready, 4 to go. I went downstairs. I took my little old guitar, and something like this. I said, 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Go, cat, go, but don't you. My wife stuck her head down the upstairs. We had 2 rooms up and 2 down, and she said, Carl, you gonna wake up these babies. But I said, whose song is that? I said, it's ours.
Well, Nashville had country music, but Memphis had the soul. Lord, the white boy had the rhythm, and that started rock and roll, and I was here when it happened. Don't y'all think I ought to know? Yeah. I was here when it happened. I watched Memphis give birth to rock and roll. Lord, yeah. Well, a cat named Elvis D bopped into the sun right off the street. Sang Blue Moon of OKY, but he did it with a brand new beat. Yes, he caught him asleep and whirling out there by surprise. Jerked him up, he rang him out, and he hung him out to dry. I was here when it happened. Don't y'all think I ought to know? Lord, yeah, I was here when it happened. I watched Memphis give birth to rock and roll. Here's kind of the way it happened. Well, the drummer boy was the beating on drum, just rocking and it going wild. Bass little sticker was clicking and clacking, but doing it in a different style. Guitar strumming and piano pumping and the lead man kicking out the blues. The shaky singer was swinging in the swing, saying something about blue suede shoes. I was here when it happened. Lord, I think I ought to know, yeah. Folks, I was here when it happened. I watched Memphis give birth to rock and roll. What you think? think about it, little guitar? Come on, son. Some folks called it the devil's music, others said it wouldn't last long. 31 years since we started shaking, proved somebody was wrong. In 64, the Beatles and the Four were the rock and roll best friends. The Beatles and the Stones were the old beat home, and the world went crazy again. I was here when it happened. My friend, I think I ought to know. Yeah, yeah. Well, I was here when it happened. I watched Memphis give birth to rock and roll. Lord, yeah. Come on!
It's hard for me to believe that I influenced with that little simple guitar. I certainly didn't mean to mess up anybody's music. I just played it the only way I knew how. Still do.
Give me some piano on this mess, son.
Carl Perkins is like a brother to me. We grew up just across the Mississippi River from each other. I've always been a fan of his guitar playing, especially, and the way he dances on stage. I've always wished I could move my feet like that.
The first real rock and roll record that I ever heard was Carl Perkins singing Blue Suede Shoes, you know, on the radio. And well, right then I knew what I wanted to do.
When they said in the beginning that our music wouldn't last, it'll be gone. It's just one of those things. It's gonna go. There's nothing to it. It would hurt when I would hear or read that preachers were breaking our records and calling it the devil's music and putting us down, because I never felt that we were spreading evil. I thought it was something to make people forget and feel good. That's what it did for me.
Now, this is another historic recording studio in Memphis, American Sound. They say more #1 hits came out of this room than any other studio in the whole world. Now, I know that's saying quite a bit, but let me name just a few of the artists and songs that were recorded here. Neil Diamond, Sweet Caroline, and Holly Holy. Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man, and her classic Dusty in Memphis album. Elvis Presley, In the Ghetto. And that's just for starters. Now, for us, it was the setting for the coming home of a very special man. He started his career as a backup singer in Texas for Pat Boone.
Hey, baby, jump over here when you do it.
Then he was heard by Sam Phillips and journeyed to Memphis.
So I asked John Cash backstage. I said, how do you get on records? He said, call Sam Phillips and tell him I recommended you. So I did, and Sam said, Johnny Cash doesn't run my record company, and hung up the phone. So I went to Clovis, New Mexico with my guys, my group, and we cut a song called Ooby Dooby. And then I brought the record back to Cecil Hollifield. We called him Papa Hollifield. He was kind of the record, he had the only big record store, and he knew all about music. So he played it for Sam Phillips on the phone. And Sam said, I can't hear anything. He said, send it to me. So we sent it to him. He called and said, can you be here in 3 days? So I borrowed some money, and we came up in the 3 days and recorded, and it was great. It was, we were right at home.
Only the lonely know the way I feel tonight.
He's the only man Elvis Presley considered to be a career threat. A rock and roll legend, the late Roy Orbison.
It's a long and lonely highway when you're traveling all alone. I was on my way to nowhere. But now I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Well, I've been running through the fire. I've been burning for so long. If I took it any higher, baby, I would still be gone. But now I'm coming home, coming home, coming home. I'm coming home, coming home, coming home. Well, my home was really never on a far and distant shore. If I stayed away forever, I could never miss you more. And so I'm coming home, coming home, I'm coming home, coming home, coming home, I'm coming home. I think of all the years gone by, never even wondered why I never touched the ground. All the time has come and gone, all the nights I spent alone, but now I'm homeward bound. I heard the thunder over Canaan, and I've heard the angels cry, and their voices came revealing, as you live, so will you die. I'm coming home, coming home, I'm coming home. I'm coming home, coming home, I'm coming home.
So when I'm singing the song Coming Home, I kind of lose myself in a song. And I'm sure the expression on my face and the way I was singing was about, I had to be thinking about Carl and Johnny and Jerry Lee, you know.
New songs from Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis when Coming Home, a Rockin' reunion continues.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine.
Now that song, I Walk the Line, can only mean the man in black, Johnny Cash. It was released in 1956. It was his third hit, and it became Johnny's signature song. It's also an example of how country met the blues, and the two of them formed rock and roll.
Memphis, 1955 on Union Avenue. Jerry, Carl, and Roy, and me, and Jack Clement too. A new sun rising on the way we sing, and a world of weirdos waiting in the wings. Oh, but I'm a different man for loving you, and I take a shot at what you asked me to. And baby, I will rock and roll with you if I have to. called us rockabillies, all of us ran through. When the big cat opened up the door, boop, bop, a lop, bamboo. I didn't ever play much rock and roll, 'cause I got so much country in my soul. But I love you, and though I'm past 42, there are still a few things yet I didn't do. And baby, I will rock and roll with you if I have to.
Throughout the years, ever since I left Sun Records in 1958, somebody at one time or another every year said you should go back to Memphis to record the old feel, the old sound. Well, you can't really go back home, and I thought of that yesterday, that here, this really was a homecoming for me yesterday, to sit there in my fancy customized tour bus beside the Sun studio, sitting looking at the front of that building, remembering days like that when I really didn't know where the next grocery money was coming from. That's all I ever wanted to do was sing. But I tried a few places when I first got out of the Air Force and I couldn't get a break, so I entered radio announcing school here in Memphis, Keegan's School of Broadcasting. And I'd been going 5 months half-time when I finally got Sam Phillips to listen. I called several times and tried to make an appointment, and I was put off and turned down, so one day I just showed up on his steps with my guitar, and they let me in and listen.
There's a story in our town of the prettiest girl around. Golden hair and eyes of blue, how those eyes could flash at you.
I was remembering the day I signed my recording contract. At that time I was working for a man named George Bates in Memphis, a place called Home Equipment Company, trying to sell home improvements and refrigerators and washing machines. And I was broke. I had 15 cents in my pocket the day I signed my recording contract, and I didn't have a paycheck coming. And when I walked out the door, and I thought of this yesterday when I crossed those steps, there was a panhandler asked me for money when I walked out the door. And at that time, cigarettes were 20 cents a package and a loaf of bread was 20 cents, and I didn't have enough for either one. So I gave him my 15 cents and walked on.
Like most early rockers, Jerry Lee Lewis came from the South, where living was the meanest. We know of the romance of the river, but life was hard. Just imagine what it was like being down there along Cotton Row in the early waterfront days. Wasn't easy, I'm sure. This was reflected in a lot of the South's music, from gospel to blues to rock and roll. Now for Jerry Lee, it was a pumping piano style with a sledgehammer beat that brought him the nickname The Killer. Beginning in 1957, his early Sun record shot to the top and made rock and roll history. And Jerry Lee's still doing it today.
Hey woman, I've been loving you since you were 16. My God, the best looking hand old Jerry Lee never seen. I'm a girl, you've got my heart really jumping. Go ahead and keep my mother humping, motor running. Let's go. Have that mother humper on the road. Hold her down. Woo! Really got me humming. Keep my motor running. Hey baby, I got fuel injection, I got some chrome wheels, I got sweetie sleepy girl, the kind you really like to feel. Satin sheets all up and down my bed. Pretty little pillow, you can lay your lovely head and let's get it on. My God, bring it on. Oh, you really got old Jerry humming. My God, get my old motor running. Baby, some rock and roll.
At the age of 8, folks brought me a Stark piano, one of them old upright, and I taught myself to play. 2 weeks I was playing pretty good.
You know, sure
A couple of months I was doing fire. A year later I was playing just like I'm playing right now. Sam Phillips heard me, he said, "Son, what are you going to do 6 months from now? You making $10,000 tonight." I said, "Mr. Phillips, I'd be thankful to God if I could make $50 a night 6 months from now." He didn't miss it a day. I wonder what happened to all that money.
I got a little seed of moon shining in your face, while I'm raised a submarine dripping down my lake. Look at the stars shining, baby's eyes. Let's get to the freeway, honey, pop my overdrive. It's good. Pop my overdrive. 1947 Street of Baker. Pop my overdrive.
I knew it was different. I knew it was right. I taught myself. I never heard of any other piano player before in my life anyway, so I taught myself. Self-style, you know. And Al Jolson, Hank Williams, Jimmy Rogers, Jerry Lee Lewis. These are 4 stylists. The rest of them imitators.
If there was a way on earth to corral talent, it's fired in one direction, we'd have another bomb equal to the hydrogen bomb. He's probably one of the most raw, talented, gifted people that I know. Jerry Lee Lewis, if you can corral it. But if you get a little part of it, you still got greatness. He's magic, he really is.
Wish I was 18.
Our legendary quartet remembers the king, Elvis, next.
This is Graceland, the home and final resting place of one of the most influential singer-performers in the history of American music, Elvis Presley. His greatness comes from a genuine love of music. It was his life. And when he arrived in Memphis, he went right to Beale Street. He hung out in the alleys behind the nightclubs and listened to the great blues singers. The story of Elvis's discovery and rise to fame is well known. It all began one day when he walked into Sam Phillips' Memphis recording service. Now, who would have thought that a young man who wanted to record a birthday song for his mama would change the course of American music? Marion Keisker was the receptionist.
He came and sat down right across the desk from me in a green plastic chair and sort of leaned forward, and it was very intense and very nervous, and of course very strikingly unusual. Most young men didn't have sideburns at that time, and his hair, contrary to what a lot of people believed, was blonde at that time.
Sam Phillips was the man who discovered it.
And when I heard Elvis on his birthday tribute to his mother, there was no, I mean, anybody with any kind of an ear knew the guy was different. Totally unpolished, thank God, but that he was different. And and you could tell in what he was doing, and later on I confirmed this, that he was so into various kinds of music without trying to be a copyist. That also intrigued me.
At this very special reunion, our legends shared a lot of memories, a lot of stories. And a great deal of those stories had to do with Elvis. Now, his friends remembered him as a fellow traveler in the world of music. But to them, he'll always be the king.
As the swift bird flies o'er the mountain, how we wish we were there at its wing. Closer by far to a friend we have lost. We remember the king. We remember the king. We recall everything. treasure all of the gifts that he did bring. We remember the King. And when shadows fall in the valley, to that precious memory we cling, like a spark that ignites and his flame still shines bright, as we remember the King. We remember the King. We recall everything. We will treasure all of the gifts that he did bring. We remember the King. We remember the King. We recall everything. We will treasure all of the gifts that he did bring. We remember the King. We remember the King. We recall everything. We will treasure all of the gifts that he did bring. We remember the King.
Elvis is with us in spirit. I wish you were here personally. We were very, very fond of each other. We were sort of kindred souls and sent messages to each other through busy careers and everything. And I had a photograph taken with Elvis in '56, and then we had another photograph, I think, taken in '76. So it's a 20-year span there, and only 2 photographs. But when I started a movie, well, he'd send a telegram. If he opened a show somewhere, like in Vegas, we'd send telegrams. Sometimes just by word of mouth. He'd say, "This note's too high, somebody go get Orbison or something." And, but he was a great and wonderful fellow. And I feel he came to the studios. We sat around many evenings at the studio. Sometimes we'd play and sing. And so it's like he's not gone. And that's very, very good.
In this heart, I know that our kind of music, it might have made it. It might have made it. But without Elvis to record it first, without the charisma, the looks, the ability, the talent, everything an artist needed, he had. And he excelled what we did so fast. He'll be in there, right here.
Our historic reunion with the class of '55 continues with Rick Nelson, the Judds, and John Fogerty in a moment.
The record producer for our historic session was Chips Moman. You know, in the 60s and 70s, it was right here at American Sound that Chips gained the reputation of being a true hit maker. As a matter of fact, in the short space of just over 2 years, 53 gold records and 75 top hits were produced right here. With a record like that, it's easy to understand why this session was also a very special homecoming for Chips.
It was really a special moment for me because it was such a strange feeling of going back in there after all these years. And to walk in that room and to remember that I sit in this particular place and
Jack Clement would sit over here, and Scotty Moore was around, and people like that. And it was, the memories were just incredible. I mean, it was hard to believe that this was really happening. And all the way through, I kept thinking, well, this is just part of one of those dreams. I've been dreaming for years about coming back to Memphis. And I'll wake up in the morning and all you people will be gone and it won't be real. Forever, people will be creating styles coming from these guys. And where it'll end, I don't know, but in the long run, 100 years from now, in the long run, you would be able to pick out and say, well, I know that little part right there came from Carl Perkins and that one came from Johnny Cash and so forth. That's the kind of impact these guys have created.
You know that special feeling and warmth Chips just spoke about? Well, it was everywhere, from the media blitz earlier here in the lobby to Roy Orbison's beautiful singing of Coming Home. Now, the other three members of our legendary quartet each add their special touch, beginning with, would you believe, a very subdued Jerry Lee Lewis. Listen.
16 candles, they make a lovely night, but not half as bright, baby, as your lovely eyes are tonight. Honey, just blow out those candles, make your wish come true, for I'll be wishing that you love me too.
Just around the corner there's heartache, down the street that loser's you. If you can wade in through the teardrops, you'll find me at the home of the blues. I walk and cry while my heart beats, keeps time with the drag of my shoes. The sun never shines through this window of mine. It's dark at the home of the blues. Oh, but the place is filled with the sweetest memories, memories so sweet that I cry. Dreams that I've had left me feeling so bad, I just want to give up and lay down and die. So if you've just lost your sweetheart, and it seems there's no good way to choose, come along with me, misery loves company. Welcome at the home of the blues.
Sitting around, minding my business, when in walked an old friend. Such a sight for sore eyes, I hadn't seen him since I don't know when. We talked about the crazy things we used to do, talk got around about old lovers, talk got around to you. And I'd like to hold a reunion for the class of 55. I'd like to see my old friends and how many have survived. Get a rock and roll band and do some dancing, talk about the good times and all of the chances we blew. What would you do if you knew you never left my heart? What would you do if you knew that you're still tearing me apart? How would you feel if you knew my love for you is still alive? my heart since the class of '55.
Well, that class of '55 that Carl just sang about went a long way. Their efforts and successes reached out to the whole world. They really set the standard and inspired a lot of other singers, many of whom came to Memphis and recorded some great pop and rock classics right here in this studio. But you know, this studio really belongs to our class of '55. It's years later, and four of the men who made it all happen sang together one more time.
Early one morning it was drizzling rain. Round the curve come the Memphis train. Heard somebody holler and a million moan. The king is dead, but Lord, he still ain't gone. Lord, he still ain't gone. Lord, he still ain't gone.
My God, he still ain't gone.
If you want to get to heaven, got a D-I-E. You got to put on your coat and your T-I-E. If you want to catch a rabbit in an L-O-G, you got to make a commotion like a D-O-G. Like a D-O-G. Like a D-O-G.
Oh, yes, just like a D-O-G. Lord, have a mercy, what's the matter with me? What makes me wanna love every woman I see? A raging when I met her, a raging again. Everyone I see looks like a place in it in.
Like a place I came in.
Oh, God.
Looks like a place I came in.
Lord, I got my name printed on my shirt. I ain't no ordinary dude, cause I don't have to work. I just got to town, now I'm gone again. But it's a different track, but it's the same old train.
It's the same old train.
Same old train.
It's the same old train.
Oh, my God, it's the same old train.
There was a lot of love and warmth during those sessions, artists having a reunion, laughing about the good old days, shedding a tear, and once again, making music together. There was no doubt that we knew we were experiencing history being made all over again, and we certainly could see the genuine admiration that those artists had for each other. We knew as we went through those few days that we were experiencing something that wouldn't happen again. It was really something.
Then there's the admiration others have for him. It's so strong that some adjusted their schedules and traveled great distances just to be here for this occasion. One was Rick Nelson. It was his last television appearance. John Fogerty came in from California. That man is Jack Clement, a man who writes a lot of songs for Johnny Cash. There's Johnny's wife, June. She wasn't about to be left out. Neither was Tony Wine, producer Chip's Moment's wife. Speaking of families, here come the Judds. All of these musicians were part of a family, celebrating some special people in a special place. And lucky for us, the music just keeps moving along.
When I was young, I spent my summer days playing on the track. The sound of the
I feel, without a doubt in my mind, that I'm one of the luckiest men that ever walked on this earth to be able to be called a part of what's happening here in Memphis.
It was probably like for me, like a family, getting back, seeing each other after, say, 20 years, you know. It was just great to be, you know, just a great feeling. in the room and everything. I think everybody had a good time.
When we started this whole thing going right, we could hardly say hello to each other for everybody around us and everything. But we finally got to pair off by ones and twos and everything, and by the end of the first day, we had spent enough time with each other to feel like this was as good an idea as we thought it was, you know.
And back out again, you know what they say about trains.
It was great getting back in the old Sun studio. I really didn't think it was going to sound as good as it did.
When they would do their thing there, man, it was taking you back, but still again, it was new too.
When Chips Moman decided to bring back 4 of the 5 people who started that whole world, Dick Clark said, take our cameras and our sound recorders and go down there with Chips Moman and make sure we don't miss history again. I don't think any of us feel that there was another thing we could have been doing at that time that would have taken the place of what we were doing. It'll never happen again, and we got to be a part of it. It was very special.
Four legends who helped change the course of American music getting together again where it all began. That was reason enough to celebrate. Who knows, it could happen at other centers of music around the country, whether it's the surf sound in California, beach music in North Carolina, the folk rock scene of San Francisco, the sound of Philadelphia, Motown, Detroit, or doo-wop in New York. From coast to coast, this country is rich with musical history and there are memories to be shared. It's America's music, and yes indeed, the beat does go on. Thank you for coming home for our Rockin' reunion. For now, Dick Clark. So long.